Yo everybody, what is up? This is sixmysta, and this is the first time I've done an intro in a while. Today's video is actually a series that I posted originally on the Mysta clan channel, and this is kind of a, I guess, promotional thing for that channel. So if you do want to go check out the rest of the series, I'm leaving a card right up here. Maybe go subscribe there. Like, it is one of the older series. There are a few parts that, and it will be finished soon actually. So if you do enjoy this part and so on and so forth, make sure to go check that out. And yeah, I've wasted your time long enough. Roll that intro.
So, how this is gonna work is, by the time Naruto turns 4, his mind starts shifting into one of two ways. And these two separate, if you will, personalities have two different thoughts about life. One wants to become stronger and have people respect him, stop neglecting him, and respect him, or stop neglecting him, so he basically wants to become Hokage. While the other one wants to gain revenge on the kids that bully him. He wants to kill those that neglect him. And these two different Narutos will be Naruto and Dark Naruto, which we will refer to as Douche Naruto. As you can see in the picture, he is more or less the embodiment of Dark Naruto, or the one that Naruto would meet at the Waterfall of Truth in the original Shippuden, but he actually develops more like a second Naruto personality and sometimes can take over the consciousness. So it actually starts playing itself, but Naruto is able to push it down because he doesn't want people to hate him more than they already do. So one day, after going around and playing on top of the Hokage monument, he meets the third Hokage, and while they're deep in playful conversation, the personalities get switched out, and his eyes, his beautiful sky blue eyes, turn black with a red pupil. And the first Hokage is first skeptical about this, and that's when Naruto's personality starts to shift. First he was talking about how he wants to become Hokage so people would stop neglecting him and start respecting him. But now he says that he wants to hurt those that hurt him and kill those that ignore him. And even moments after, his eyes suddenly switch back. Naruto grabs his hair and starts screaming, "Get out of my head!" And the third Hokage has seen only one case similar to this years ago with someone that wasn't really that important. And he thinks that this is a form of high chakra second consciousness. So it's basically multi-personality disorder. And one personality is somehow, and the other personality is the exact opposite. So the kind, loving Naruto becomes a hateful murderer. And he sees this and decides he has to take action now. So what he does is he kindly asks Naruto if Naruto wants to come live with him. Naruto actually being happy that someone asked, but a little paranoid, asks him what he's planning on doing, and he says, "Well, I am the current Hokage, so that means I can groom you to become the next." And Naruto, being happy, jumps around all childlike, being happy that someone is going to take care of him. So, without telling the council about Naruto's multiple personality disorder, he actually says to the council that he decided to adopt Naruto to within his family, and that his son, or Konohamaru's dad, actually agrees to take Naruto in as his quote-unquote adoptive son. At this point, Konohamaru's dad is still alive, and Konohamaru is 2 years of age. So Naruto actually looks over Konohamaru as a little brother of sorts. And Sarutobi would visit Naruto every day before he goes out to the office, and every day after he comes back, to make sure Naruto is doing good. Asuma and his brother sort of gain a liking to Naruto. Obviously, the Hokage's first son, thinks of Naruto as a son of his own, and Asuma thinks of him as a nephew. At this point, Asuma took his first official break from the 12 Knights and has spent more time in the Leaf Village as a whole because there are other knights and he isn't the only one that needs to guard. So it's his first official time off, but in a year or so, he would probably be called back to go serve again. So Naruto, for the next year or so, grows up in a loving family, Konohamaru's dad caring for him, Konohamaru's mom nowhere to be seen, at least for now, and no one really tells them what happened. About 2 years pass and it's time for Naruto to go into the academy. Over these 2 years, he has shown quite a few signs of his dark form, but the Hokage and Konohamaru's father have both taught him to meditate and always be the loving, joyful boy he is and never give in to grief or greed or anything similar like anger. And Naruto took these words to heart. Especially after just joining the academy, everyone was hyping him up, and all he really needed to do at this point in the academy was study. He did have a better capability than he would have in canon, because Asuma's father was still a shinobi and still taught him some things. He taught him some basic jutsu that consumed enough chakra for Naruto to be able to use them, and he even taught him some basic taijutsu stances and similar things. So Naruto is more or less a knowledgeable kid and would fare well in the start of the academy. Because of Naruto's personality, he doesn't study a lot because a lot of the times his mental state would go somewhere else and he would have to start meditating, but he passes with at least an 80%, so he doesn't fail, but he more than passes, so he is more on the smarter side, but still not as smart as someone like Sasuke or Sakura, who puts a lot of time into studying and knowing a lot of things. Even though Naruto wants to study, it's not something he really can do because of the constant need for meditation. About 2 months into Naruto in the academy, Konohamaru wants to be just like Naruto. He wants to learn some jutsu, and Konohamaru's dad almost immediately teaches him because he wants Konohamaru to learn to be like Naruto, and Naruto is someone special, someone very powerful. At this point, Naruto can do basic D and E rank wind style ninjutsu. He doesn't have enough chakra control to enhance a blade or a kuna or something, but he does have enough control to cast a jutsu like the wind style Gale Palm and some other minor wind style techniques that are really not that destructive. So Konohamaru is actually taught how to do the clone jutsu, which is something interesting. Even though he would learn it later in the academy, he learns it earlier while he still has a very small chakra reserve. So this means he can actually learn it quicker because of that small chakra. Because of his small chakra, his father thinks that he should automatically start his chakra control training and should always keep it up as his reserves are growing to make sure that he always has mastery over his level of reserves. So Konohamaru is actually going to be considered a prodigy, but so is Naruto and other people like Sasuke and Sakura, because the only thing that kept Sakura back was her lower amount of knowledge towards things like chakra control because she comes from a civilian family, but she is a bookworm nonetheless, so she still knows a lot. One day, something happens and Asuma's brother and Konohamaru's father, Sarutobi's son, and now also Naruto's father, died. We are never told how he dies, but to Naruto and Konohamaru's grief, it was probably in combat or something similar. We're once again not exactly told what happens, but we know it does happen. Naruto, now grieving his father's death, has to meditate a lot more than he had to keep those nasty thoughts away. But he also figured if he pushes himself into something he's really interested in, he can push those thoughts out of his mind. So one day he decides he's going to go to the Leaf's main library, or the one on top of the Hokage monument, a place he isn't really shunned and pushed away from. He goes in and asks if he can go to the academy student section, and he is allowed, for he is an academy student. He reads about some basic chakra control exercises like tree climbing, and that there are more advanced like water walking that they don't actually explain, but they do explain tree walking and the positives and negatives towards it. If you put too little, you'd slip. If you put too much, the bark would explode. Things like that. And Naruto doesn't know this, but Konohamaru basically started doing the basics of water walking. He could already tree walk, and he would read a lot. He'd even study a lot, read a lot about history, read a lot about low-level ninjutsu, and also read a lot about chakra control. Because one of the last things Konohamaru's dad told Naruto is that he has so much chakra because of his heritage that he should probably learn chakra control. But what we do not know is that Konohamaru's dad left something for Naruto when he turned genin, and in a note he left Naruto, he also will give Konohamaru something as soon as he turns genin. So this is some sort of inheritance or something similar. What then happens is Naruto progresses even faster, because about 4 weeks, so a month or 2 months later, he finishes his tree climbing. Not really anyone there to teach him how, so he had to get used to it. And that's when he started working on the 3-hour thing. And after about 2 more weeks, he could stay 3 hours on a tree without falling and doing something else at the same time. So he can basically unconsciously do it, but this doesn't really affect his large reserves. One day, Konohamaru does come looking for Naruto, and finds Naruto on the tree, basically just sitting against the tree reading a scroll. Konohamaru asks him what he's doing, and he says this is the only thing he could find on chakra control in the library, and this is the last thing their father told him to do. Konohamaru says, "Big bro Naruto, Dad did teach me how to water walk. I can show you that, but I'm not that good at it yet." Naruto then tells him to show him, and Konohamaru, still being a 4-year-old child, mind you, is a prodigy among prodigies. A 4-year-old that can both tree and water walk, but this is mostly because of his small reserves, and he cannot actually do it for long periods of time before his chakra is drained. But by doing this for long periods of time, he actually somewhat expands his reserves. So Konohamaru explains what their father explained to him, and Naruto, about another 2 to 3 months, practices water walking and can more or less unconsciously water walk. It is now 4 months into the academy, and Naruto is once again in the library, still reading through the same scroll on basic nature releases, the concepts of hand seals, and basic chakra control, being tree walking. He's looking for anything he might have missed, when a pink-haired girl with a pink dress appears from behind him, taps him on the shoulder, and asks him what he's doing. He doesn't even look back, because he doesn't really know this voice. Just says, "I'm an academy student and I'm learning basic chakra control so that my academy life as a ninja would progress faster." Sakura, as we know her, would now pull out the chair next to him and ask, "What is chakra control?" Naruto would literally just roll back the scroll to the beginning and put it there and asks her if she's in the academy. She now looks up to him because he stood up from his chair and says, "I know you, we're in the same class." And Naruto looks back down with a rather straight, emotionless face and says, "Oh, I didn't notice. If you're in my class, you should probably be learning this stuff too, because that means you're probably a civilian kid with no clan. So, learn this stuff." And he just shoved the scroll in front of her and walks away. Instead of having the fascination with Sasuke, Sakura actually has a fascination with Naruto, because he basically gave her the cold shoulder and was like, I don't care for you. This is actually the day before the Uchiha massacre. So, the Uchiha massacre happens and nothing has really changed. But after that, Sakura also starts training on chakra control, and she also read that if your reserves are drained and to a certain point and they recuperate, they will get slightly larger each time. So, over the course of the next 2 months, because of her, once again, small chakra reserves, she practices tree climbing, which she can do almost immediately, and even water walking, because she got tree climbing in I would say she got it in a day or so. Not a day, more of a week because she's younger. And after about another month, she would probably master water walking too, being also another prodigy among prodigies. After this, when Sasuke would see either Naruto or Sakura training in things that he can't even do, is inspired to do this too. So he does actually ask some shinobi what they're doing, and some people did tell them that this is chakra control. You start with tree climbing, then water walking. If he wants to, there are scrolls in the library. Naruto did tell Sakura about water walking because that's not in the scroll, and he basically explained to her before walking away, and even some as he was walking away, and he also suggested that she wears a swimsuit. And that's when Naruto would actually do something most children wouldn't think to do. He looks at the jutsu he already has and he decomposes them. So this is weaker wind style jutsu like minor gusts of wind to basically lift small objects like leaves or paper off of the floor just slightly enough for a bigger wind jutsu to basically move them. So these are more office type wind jutsu, but he actually gets one of the jutsu called the wind gust, which is basically just a jutsu usually used to lift up all the papers in a room because of its minor wind pressure. And he also disassembles the wind style gale palm, being the strongest technique he knows, and he actually comes up with a new jutsu called wind style wind blade edge. It's not very strong, not strong enough to cut someone, but it basically gives off a slice of wind pressure strong enough to basically knock someone down or even bruise them slightly, but not sharp so it doesn't cut anyone. So he calls it the wind style dulled blade edge. And Sakura, having mastered chakra control, and Sasuke also being intrigued by it, starts practicing and actually gets down tree climbing, but not water walking. And because it's 6 months into the academy officially now, the first graduation test comes up. And Uruka did explain about a week earlier how the clone jutsu works and how it would probably be able to work. Naruto being very young at this age, still having rather small genin to chunin level chakra reserves. Even though he's a child, he should not have these reserves. Even though he's a Jinchuriki, he doesn't have high reserves because the seal is still rather tight, and he still only has Uzumaki level chakra reserves, which would be high genin to low chunin, which with his amount of chakra control with the tree and water walking, he is actually able to perform it after that only 1 week of practice, and is able to create about 20 clones, because he can't do less than that. He did try to only do one, but Konohamaru, hyping it up, says, come on big bro, you can do more than one. And Naruto, being cocky, tries to just make as much as you want, and actually made 50 the first time. And then as it got longer, he was able to push it down to 20 because he didn't want to show off too much. Sakura, also taking to this like wildfire, is able to make 5 solid clones, the bare minimum to pass, at least if you are trying to be an early graduate, along with Sasuke, who can make 10 solid clones because of his slightly larger chakra reserves, because of his training with stuff like the Fireball Jutsu and Fire Phoenix Jutsu, Uchiha style Shuriken Shadow Clone, and Kunai Shadow Clone. So his reserves have been expanded upon, and he can do much more than any academy student should, because for these last 2 months, while his parents were dead, he basically pushed all his time into training instead of just crying and moping around, so he can become stronger to kill his older brother. So he has this ambition earlier. But he does see Naruto as a rival because Naruto actually at this time, because of his young age and everyone else's young age, got the highest marks. Even though it was around 80, no one really got more than 60 to 70 except Sakura, who got around 90. So Sakura was actually the smartest person in class, with Naruto as second. Naruto having the best physical scores because of his enhanced body, because of obviously the Uzumaki gene and something to do with the Nine Tails, but not a lot. So Naruto at this point is a prodigy. Sakura, because of her low reserves, could be a prodigy. And Sasuke, just because of pure training alone, is also a prodigy. And these three, when Uruka wants to check for people to join the this year's Genin exam, because it has happened before with people like Kakashi, Minato, Itachi. So he does ask because it's a formal requirement, and Naruto actually steps up and he says he wants to try, and Uruka tells him a class number and then asks anyone else. Sakura, being inspired by Naruto, her quote-unquote crush, she decides to go after him too, and she says she wants to too. Uruka asks if she's sure can she do the clone jutsu, and she explains that she has practiced it and can make about 5 clones a day. So Uruka also lets her go, and Sasuke also stands up, and Uruka doesn't question it, and Sasuke just leaves without saying a word, and just thinks to himself, if that guy can do it, I can do it too. So all of them go to the class, and the tests begin. Naruto, obviously being the first person to be called out because the instructor just wants the demon fox out of his class. At this point, Naruto had basically figured out that he has to be the Nine-Tails Fox, not only because of his birth date, but among the history he read, that was the day the Nine-Tailed Fox dies, and there was a picture of Minato, and he figured that that was probably his real father, and he was the Nine-Tails. So he basically figured this out, and with just a few diving into records, he found a picture of Kushina. So he figured that was his mother because she was the last Uzumaki known to be alive. So he basically pieced his heritage together and found out, but didn't really tell anyone. But he knows this is why the instructor tells him to go first. The instructor said the first test, if you fail it, you're probably going to fail the other two because you'd need perfect scores on the other two to be able to pass. So what Naruto does is he makes 20 solid clones, but the bare minimum requirement would be 5. People in the crowd are thinking he's showing off, but the tuning instructor just thinks that it's stupid that this kid figured out that he has too much chakra because of that demon. Whatever. It's probably the Sarutobi clan that taught him that. And so Sakura and Sasuke were also called up because they are early graduates, or to be early graduates. And Sakura, being able to make the bare minimum, has got a 50% on that. So she got basically the same as everyone else in class, obviously except like the rookie of the year that could manage to make 8, and Sasuke was able to make 10. They moved on to the physical exam, which was kunai and shuriken throwing. Naruto, with the help of Konohamaru's dad and even sometimes Sarutobi, could get 9 out of 10 on each of them, so he basically passed. He actually got 10 shuriken in, but only 9 kunai. So he basically passed top of the class. Sakura got in 10 kunai, but 8 shuriken. So she also didn't do that good, where Sasuke just did 9-9. So how the rankings worked is, for that it was Sakura and Sasuke tied for second, with Naruto at first, and then below Sakura the rookie of the year for that class, or what would have been the rookie of the year. And then came the physical exam. This is where the Genin think they're ahead of the children. But unbeknownst to them, not only Naruto and Sakura, but actually Sasuke has studied far beyond their years. Sasuke just diving into Uchiha material, Naruto and Sakura spending a lot of time at the library, Naruto more at the Great Library, and Sakura more at the library near her house. So they actually passed top of the class. Naruto with a solid 95, and Sakura with also a solid 95, and Sasuke close with a 90. So yes, he is actually very smart, but hasn't gotten a chance to do a proper test to prove himself better than Naruto. But after this, after all the markings have been done, they would have to come back the next day, and or just an hour later, but most people decide to wait. So the test scores are announced with Naruto as the technical rookie of the year, and Sasuke and Sakura being second and third, Sasuke being third and Sakura being second. Even though Sakura's reserves are smaller and her physical strength is less, her mental aptitude is much higher than any other. A lot of the Genin, or now Genin, are furious that these three children got higher scores than them, and thought that they'd teach them a lesson. But Uruka, now coming to check up on his students because they haven't returned yet, sees that they passed, and then just glares at the Genin, basically with eye contact alone, telling them not to try anything or else.
But yeah, that's going to be it for this video, guys. As I said, this is over on the Mysta channel. You can go back to the start for the card, or just go down to the description. The link is down there. So yeah, if you did enjoy this, make sure to go check out the Mysta clan and give that channel some love. We have been working on it for over a year now, so there's a lot of interesting content you're probably missing out on over there. So yeah, this has been your boy Six. Peace.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Subscribe for more.
Yada yada does it.